Now boarding Solo Flight with Nicole Anderson. Hey guys, welcome back to Solo Flight Podcast. Today we are doing Season 2, Episode 2. Now, if I'm being completely honest, I am struggling today. Today is going to be a tough one for me to get through, but hopefully you guys can stick it out with me because I just want to be honest with you guys. I think it's normal that we're not always going to be able to show up as 100% of ourselves every single day of the week. And if you guys are on that journey with me and you guys are also struggling today, well then great. At least we know that we are both gonna have a tough time, but we're still gonna do it. We're gonna show up and we're gonna get through it. Okay, so I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna try, but if you guys can tell that my energy level is a little low, well, that's life. I'm gonna try to be a little bit more energetic next week. So just a quick recap of the week that I had. I did a live with one of my friends. You guys know Ava. We did an episode a few episodes back with her, and we were able to do a live together where we got to launch a specific product, and it was so much fun. Actually, I think you guys can tell that whenever Ava and I are together, we really have a lot of fun together. I think our sense of humor is just very similar, and we also don't really take too many things so seriously. So she is okay with giving me a hard time. I'm okay with giving her a hard time. And it kind of just flows without really having to think about it. Anyway, that being said, that was really fun. And I hope we get to do another one soon. If we are able to, I'll let you guys know on my Instagram. Make sure you guys follow me on there. It's Nicole_Anderson on Instagram. And of course, the Instagram of the podcast, which is Solo Flight Podcast. Check us out on there so that we can share all of our live updates as they happen. Because as you know, the pod only happens like once a week. Obviously, we release them every Monday. So if there's something happening throughout the week, then it's a lot easier to get live daily updates on there. Actually, speaking of that live, Ava actually rode with me to work, or to that live that we did, it was really near, but somehow the traffic was an hour and 20 minutes long. It was a little bit intense, actually. And guys, I want to know what your guys' experience is with traffic lately. Has something changed? Like, is there something I'm unaware of? Because it seems like the traffic in the last 2 to 3 weeks has gotten significantly worse, and I'm actually quite concerned that it's even going to get worse as we get closer to December. We already know the Christmas rush with the traffic and all the shopping, and everyone starts to come out for all the Christmas parties and events. And yeah, I don't know, does anyone have a solution? Because that was ridiculous. Anyway, I'm digressing again. So Ava rode with me to this live that we did, and it was so funny because in the car we were practicing our spiels, and then we were also we got excited because we hadn't seen each other in a while. I think the last time we saw each other was what you guys saw on my YouTube vlog that I released a few weeks ago. Can't remember the last time I saw her. So we were trying to catch up on just our lives and what's happening in her life, what's happening in my life. But at the same time, we knew that we only had a short window to also practice the main spiels that we needed to get across for this job that we were going to do. And that moment when we were in the car studying the script and also studying the product fact sheets brought me back to this very strong image that I had of, it felt like we were back in college. And you know how you and your group mates or your classmates in college, you guys are all preparing for a presentation and you're about to give a presentation class, or maybe it's a big chunk of your final grade, or it's a midterm, or whatever it is, right? And you feel that pressure and you're trying to divide the work. Okay, who's going to talk about the introduction and who's going to talk about this part and this part. That's what we felt like. And then I told her, I was like, Abs, it feels like we're cramming for a presentation in college. And then we ended up just laughing in the car. And she's like, oh my God, yeah. But if you guys are listening to this and you are in college and you're experiencing that right now, know that sometimes that still happens up into adulthood. And, those skills that you learn and that you are able to hone when you are in college sometimes end up becoming useful in your life as you continue on in your work life later down the road. Or maybe it doesn't. I mean, it also really depends on what course you're taking and also what career path you end up taking, right? I mean, does anyone else agree that we should have courses either in uni or in high school where people are taught just basic important adulting skills? Like, for example, how come no one ever taught us how to do our taxes? Like, every time it's tax season, it gets so scary. And I hear also a lot of my friends, like, sometimes, people will take advantage of your lack of knowledge and your, I guess, unawareness of the situation. And so, they might end up charging you more and like things like that. And it's also so scary. So like, I feel like those are skills that we should be learning in school. But this isn't even what I'm trying to say. I'm just going off on a different tangent. But back to Ava and being in the car. When we did the live, we started speaking. Obviously, when I say live, that means it's actually live. So there are no take twos, there are no cuts, there are no, oops, I made a mistake, let's try that again. So once that ball was rolling, we just had to roll with the punches. And what's difficult with doing live shows is that you never really know what's going to be thrown at you. You don't know if any situation changes, then you just need to keep rolling with the punches. And I think we had fun and it was a good show, a good live, but to be speaking non-stop for 2.5 hours, like literally no break, no water break, you can't leave the room and go use the bathroom and then come back. You're literally talking straight for 2.5 hours. Takes a lot out of you, unless this person that's their, what's the word, here we go with the struggle, my brain is not running. What's the word if someone is naturally chatty and that is like a life skill that they have, then maybe it's going to be easy for them, right? But I think generally it's safe to say that for the average person, the average listener, and myself and Ava included, it takes a lot out of a person. So after we did the live, when we got back in the car for me to then drop her home, the car was completely silent. Her and I did not even look at each other. We didn't even talk to each other. We had a group chat with the rest of the team and the producers. We were just texting on our phones and we were right next to each other, but we weren't talking to each other. And you could just tell the stark difference of what we were like on our way to the show and then what we were like after we have done the show and we're on our way back. And I wish I videoed like that little moment of us going and then coming back. I wish I could have been able to video that. It would have been a funny difference, like a before and after that I could have shared on my YouTube channel. But I'll keep that in mind if we do another live next time, maybe in the next few months. But it's just so funny. Like, literal guys, tulala kami. You could hear crickets. Like you could hear Ava and I take our breaths, like just breathe. You could hear us breathe. That's how quiet it was. And yeah, I just think it's so funny, but it's probably how I'm going to be feeling after I record this. Not that I'm going to be recording this episode for 2.5 hours, but because I'm already starting at a very low point and I'm already having a difficult time, I think getting through this is going to be challenging, but I will say not impossible. One thing I did want to ask you guys, and this is going to be, again, another very random and different tangent. I want to ask you guys, what are your favorite go-to orders when you order from a food delivery app? And I ask because I noticed that I always have maybe my top 5 restaurants that I'm constantly reordering from, and it's always the same dishes. And I feel like I want to change things up, but I don't know where to look and what to try. And you guys always have the best suggestions. So please do share what your favorite dishes are, and I can't wait to try them. And also, if I try them and I like them, I'll give you guys a shout out on the pod. Like I'll be like, oh my God, that whatever, let's say Roxy 818 said that I needed to try this chicken adobo from this restaurant and it was so good. Thank you so much, Roxy. You know, whatever it is, whatever your go-to order is, your go-to restaurant for food delivery apps, let me know in the comment section because I need to change things up. I'm getting so sick of eating the same thing over and over again. I don't know about you guys, but I tend to really stick to one thing. Like when I find something, I order something and then I like it, I can eat that same thing several times in a week because it becomes my favorite thing and I want to have it, and then I'll have it over and over and over again for an extended period of time, whether it's a month or 2, 3, maybe up to 6 months, however long the time period is, and then it'll come to a point where I'll just be so sick of it. So yeah, give me some recommendations, guys, and I look forward to trying all your favorite dishes. Now let's move on to the main topic that I wanted to talk about in this episode. And I've been thinking about it for the past few weeks. And it's about the power, but also perhaps the necessity of changing our minds and why it's so important and what triggered this topic for me to want to talk about it. So if you guys listened to the previous episode where I asked Michelle a question and her response was, I've changed, or, oh, people change. And, you know, it was said in a very joking manner. Like it wasn't really serious, but I think there is some honesty in that response. And also, I guess some self-awareness in that it's normal for us to change. And I came across this article from time.com, and the article is titled The Power of Changing Your Mind. I will try my best to link everything in the description or show notes down below. The author is Hala Alyan. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. Anyway, as I'm reading through this article, it explores the concept of cognitive flexibility and our ability to change our minds and its significance in various aspects of life, particularly in the context of our identity and also propaganda. But I won't touch on the propaganda topic, and I'm going to try to avoid the whole political aspect of it. I just kind of want to talk about how it discusses about how our emotional investment onto our beliefs often hinders our openness to new ideas, right? If you think about that, how emotionally invested are we in something that we believe in kind of makes us sink our heels in a little bit deeper about how we feel about that topic, whatever it might be, right? And if we then are closed off to new ideas, I feel like obviously it can then stunt our growth, but I think it's especially deeply ingrained in our beliefs about ourselves, our communities. I think religion is another big one, but I'm not going to touch on that subject either. I just want to talk about how the author kind of highlights this role of identity protective cognition, where people accept information that aligns with their or their group's beliefs, right? It kind of goes along with the topic of I think it's called cognitive bias. I'm not sure because I never studied psychology, but I think that's what my understanding of cognitive bias is. But you know what? Just to be sure, let me do a quick Google search and check it out so that I'm not making things up on the fly right now. Okay, so according to my Google search and techtarget.com, I will put a link of my sources in the description box down below. This, obviously, I did not take days to find this, but a quick answer of what cognitive bias is cognitive bias is a systematic thought process caused by the tendency of the human brain to simplify information processing through a filter of personal experience and preferences. The filtering process is a coping mechanism that enables the brain to prioritize and process large amounts of information quickly. Now, now that I'm reading this and I'm slowly having a smaller grasp of understanding on what cognitive bias is, my understanding is that it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's and anyone who's studying psychology, feel free to correct me in the comments, please. I'm happy to learn. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm just trying to figure this out as I go. But my understanding is that it's your brain's way of kind of preserving itself and preserving energy for you to then be able to have that energy to process more difficult and possibly threatening information, right? So if it's just little things, then it's easier to have cognitive bias on certain matters. But I think we also have it on a wide variety of themes or a wide variety of aspects in our life. You can have cognitive bias from something as small as your favorite type of music or artist, or your beliefs about your skincare or health and what sort of nutrition you want to feed your body with, down to bigger societal cognitive biases like culture and perhaps religion, right? I'm sure government also plays a big part in that, but I'm not trying to solve cognitive bias on its own. Let's bring it back to the article that I read. Okay, now before this starts sounding like a lecture at school, you're probably wondering, why am I bringing this up? Well, I like that when I read the article, it got me thinking about how often and how willing are we to actually change our minds about different topics, right? And that recent comment that Michelle made in the previous episode, if you guys haven't heard that, definitely give it a listen after this one. She mentioned that her mind changed. You know, how she felt 2-3 years ago is no longer how she feels now. And I think we need to normalize allowing people the space and the grace to change their minds about certain topics, especially where am I trying to get with this? Like, I want us to normalize letting ourselves and everyone else change our minds, because I think that's where we are able to find our growth as a person. And, you know, I think generally a lot of us can agree that we are not the same people we were 10 years ago, or the same people we were in high school versus college. And, you know, arguments can be made on both sides. Obviously, there are inherent maybe personality traits or behaviors, or, like I mentioned, cognitive biases that are so deeply ingrained that you're not going to change. But I think it's also beautiful for us to allow ourselves to question, oh, do I actually believe that? Let's say a belief our parents or our titos and titas told us forever as we were growing up, that I can't even think of an example right now, but it can be something as small as, let's say, your favorite song, right? Maybe your favorite song in high school isn't your favorite song right now. And obviously that's a very menial example, that it's easy to change your favorite song, just as it's easy to change your favorite food, right? But I think people start to being more tough about changing your minds when it comes to things that are a little bit more, I guess, societally deemed important, right? Like maybe people are less open to you changing your mind. Oh, okay, here's one example. Maybe you want to change your mind about the career path you're taking, right? A lot of us are expected that by the time we're 18 or to 21, depending on what your school timeline looks like, a lot of us are expected to know and decide what we want to do for the rest of our lives at college. And studies have shown that our brains aren't even fully developed at 18. So how would you even know what you want to be doing up until you're 70 or till the day you die. Like, no one can predict that. And yet there's this expectation that if you have, especially if you've taken a course that requires way more time and way more money, such as, or a bigger investment like going to law school or taking courses to have your doctorate or be a doctor, then people are out. I just hit my elbow on the table. That's what that sound was. Then people around us, maybe your family or your coworkers, are a little bit more hesitant to allow you to just change your mind like you would a favorite dish, right? Like, people are a little bit more wary of letting you change your career path, and rightfully so. Again, I understand the arguments on both sides, but I also feel that as we grow and as we evolve through life, we learn more about ourselves and what we like, what we dislike, people we love, places we live in. Like, we're learning as we're growing, and maybe you realize that, okay, I actually don't want to keep doing the same thing I've been doing over and over again for the past 10 years. And maybe this is the podcast you needed to hear, or maybe this is the sign you needed to finally push you in that direction that you were afraid of taking. And another thing I want to say is that rather than allowing other people to change their minds, I think a lot of people are also tough on themselves, myself included. I think this is something I'm very much guilty of, is that there's this fear of, will you then be considered a hypocrite for changing your mind? And I don't know what the answer to that is, right? Again, I'm not your guys' parents. I'm also just trying to figure this out as I go. And I'm opening the floor up, and I'm opening this question up to you guys because I want to hear what you guys think as well. And, I think you can even give an example of like changing your mind in a relationship. As you grow, you are not the same person. Let's say you were in a relationship with someone in high school, and 20 years later, you no longer feel connected to this person, or you don't feel like this is your person. And it makes sense because in 20 years, it's safe to assume that you have gone through a lot and that you've changed as a person as well. And I'm sure that person is also not the same person they were in high school either. So they've changed too. And people will then say, oh, you've already invested 20 years. Like, why would you leave this person? But if you are inherently so unhappy and it's making you miserable and taking a toll on your well-being, maybe it's worth exploring if it's time to change your mind about that, right? And okay, so I'm not trying to tell anyone what to do in their life. So don't go to your husband and tell them, I need to leave you because Nicole said. That's not what I'm saying here, okay? I'm just saying that I want us to be a little bit more open with ourselves and with everyone else about changing our minds. That being said, there's also this quote that I saw recently on Instagram on one of the accounts that I follow that says, normalize changing your mind when given new information. And to me, that means that if you believe something so inherently, such as the cognitive biases that we mentioned earlier, I think sometimes when people are so emotionally invested on a belief, let's say, okay, let's give an easy example. Let's say your favorite is dark chocolate, right? Or no, let's say your favorite is like white chocolate. And you now have gone and told all your friends, and you have proclaimed to the world that white chocolate is the best thing you've ever had, and you are emotionally invested in white chocolate. And then scientists come out with a study that say that, oh, actually, milk chocolate is better for you because of so. Now, you are emotionally invested and you have already also made public announcements that you are so deeply riding hard for white chocolate. Stay with me here. I'm trying, guys. I'm trying to get the point across. But now you are so emotionally invested in white chocolate that you refuse to even see the information or the data of what is good about any other chocolate out there, right? And by doing that, maybe you're holding yourself back from discovering that actually dark chocolate is the best thing you've ever had. But because you have ridden so hard for white chocolate, now you just don't even want to give dark chocolate a chance. Do you see what I'm getting at here, guys? And I just want us to all be more open and, I guess, allow ourselves to explore opposing beliefs, but also different ideas to what we hold dear. And perhaps by doing that, we might discover something even better than what we thought we believed. Do you guys get what I'm trying to say? I don't know how I got so philosophical on this episode, but I'm doing this episode because I want to encourage all of us to, I guess, maybe not take our decisions so seriously. Obviously, there are decisions in our lives that are life altering and that are very heavy decisions, and that shouldn't be just decided on a whim. I understand that, and that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that if we are presented with compelling information that challenges what we thought we knew or what we thought we believed, I hope we give ourselves the chance to hear it out and to see where that takes us. And if it does change our mind, great. Maybe that's what we needed, right? But also, here's the beauty of letting yourself change your mind. If you then realize that later down the road, if you were presented with more information and you think that, oh, me changing my mind was actually wrong, I should go back to what I was thinking 1-2 days ago, you also have the ability to do that. You can keep changing your mind as many times as you want. Now, I don't know if that's something I want in, let's say, a doctor that's treating me, and if he's changing his treatment plan every 2 days, then I think that would stress me out, right? So obviously in more dire situations, that won't fly. But I'm just saying, it might be worth taking the time to explore our own cognitive biases, one, and also our own beliefs on whatever that might be for you, whatever decision you feel you're stuck on right now. Maybe it might be worth it to take this week, take the next few days to just think about, oh, why do I believe this thing so deeply? And why am I so emotionally invested in this thing that I believe? And does that add value to my life? Or does me having an open mind about this topic or this subject give me an opportunity to explore a new avenue that I never even knew was possible for me before? That's all I wanted to say with this episode. I hope it wasn't so convoluted. I feel like it was a little, but I hope at the end of the day you guys get the point I'm trying to make. If not, maybe I'll try again in another episode. But you know what, guys? At the end of the day, I tried. And I'm gonna give myself credit for that. And if you guys are also not looking forward to whatever it is you have to deal with today, I know Mondays can be difficult for a lot of people. I hope this episode serves you in however you needed it to serve you today. That being said, if you guys found this episode interesting, or maybe you didn't, then that's okay too, right? If you guys found this episode interesting and insightful, please do share it with a friend, coworker, family member, whoever it is. It would mean the world to me. Also, let me know what you guys think. What are your thoughts on this topic? Let me know in the comment section. If you guys liked it, please do give it a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube, or a rating and review if you're listening on Spotify. And I think that's it for me on this one. And I can't wait to catch you guys on the next one. Bye.